Hello.
I made it.
Yep, we're on live.
What's up? How y'all doing?
Doing
Good, how are
great.
you?
Good.
Awesome. Well, welcome to those who are watching, I guess. Have we done the intro yet?
No, we just got live right as you were sitting down.
Oh, sweet. Well, hey guys, welcome to those watching. This is Dirt Therapy Live. Just a bunch of guys and gals that like to off-road, that just talk shop and have fun. Glad you can join us. And we have some cool stuff to talk about today. We are going to be starting off with talking to Corbin about his experience at SEMA. So Corbin, Weekends and Waypoints, if you want to kick us off and let's get started.
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about SEMA. So if you guys don't know what SEMA is, it's pretty much an industry trade show, not just for off-roading, but for anything that has to do in the industry, cars, manufacturers, aftermarket parts. Pretty much everyone's there. So it's like a cool event to go and just check out, see what's new. I really went there just to see new products and just cool builds and stuff like that, because there's a lot of cool builds out there. So I want to talk about like some of the cool products that I saw when I was there. And I have a few of them. One of them is hardtop. So Real Truck, which owns Rugged Ridge, is coming out with a new hardtop in Q2 of next year. I don't know if you guys saw it on my Instagram, but it's kind of like a fastback style modular plastic hardtop. It should be pretty cool. It has like a panoramic sunroof. It has a built-in T-rails along the top. All the panels come off, so it's like completely modular. And they're saying it's going to be around the $4,000 price mark. So something worth looking out for. I thought it was pretty cool. And honestly, I think it might be one of the coolest products that I saw there. They had it displayed on a Jeep, unfortunately. I wish they were displaying it on a Bronco, but I did confirm that it is coming out for the Bronco at the same time. So everyone that got stuck with a soft top, which is pretty common with the Broncos, could have a pretty good solution coming out here soon, which is pretty nice to see.
I like my soft top.
The soft top's definitely nice. I mean, I love my soft top too. But sometimes hard tops are also pretty nice. A little bit more functional sometimes, and a little bit more insulation during the wintertime. It's starting to get cold. Some of the other cool stuff I saw was like Olin's. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Olin's. They do like a ton um, in like the motorcycle realm. They do a ton like in the racing realm. And they're starting to break more into the off-road market, which is pretty cool. And they had some pretty cool coilovers there. There's not much information out there on them yet, but they are fully, from what I saw, they're fully adjustable, compression, rebound, the whole nines, rebuildable. They look to be, they're, I believe, a German company, so they don't really go by inches. It's going to be roughly around like a 2.5-inch coilover from what I saw. So it's going to use like 2.5-inch coils, which is pretty cool. Bunch of headlights, form lighting. There was another company that's coming out with a bunch of cool headlights. So there's a bunch of headlights coming out. All of those ones should be hitting the market before the year's up. So all the headlight companies that I talked to, we should see probably 3 or 4 new headlights before the year's up. So if you're in the market for headlights, I thought that was pretty cool.
Mine are getting all scratched up, so it's about time.
Yeah, I know. Better than just like, there's really like, I think Alpha Rex was like really your only other option. So it's gonna be nice to have a variety of headlights. I think Oracle had a set too, but so
Yeah, we have the Morimotos on ours, and they've had some quality issues. I've had to have mine turned in for a warranty repair, and I know a couple other people that have had the same issue with the RGB circle having defects in it. They're honoring their warranty, but still, it's a frustrating process.
yeah. So hopefully some of these other companies, saw that and addressed it. And then few lift kits coming out, which was kind of cool. It seems like the long travel game is about to take off here soon. From what I saw, everyone was talking about long travel. There was really only one new one displayed though, and that's Camberg's, big company owned by Magnaflow. They're coming out with a 2-inch long travel kit, which I actually thought was pretty unique because a lot of the other long travel kits that are out right now, they're like 3.5, 5-inch kits. So a little excessive, I feel like, for a lot of people, especially for like daily drivers, people that want to do more narrow trails. I mean, you're really pushing the width of your Bronco at that point. So just having like a shorter 2-inch kit was pretty cool. It's a completely boxed upper and boxed lower. They like double sheared everything, which is pretty cool. So I'm pretty excited to see how that performs, coming out soon. I believe that should be coming out also around Q2 of next year. And that was mostly the cool stuff that I saw as far as parts go. Some of the other cool stuff that I saw was like the Land Cruiser and GX were there. So really getting to look at those was pretty rad. I know we're all Bronco people here, but the suspension on that, geometry wise, is very similar to the Bronco. Now I don't know if it's going to be able to like hold a 35-inch tire, you know, as easily as a Bronco can, because it seemed like the ones they had displayed were like on 31s, you know, very like factory looking SUV, but you know, it has a very similar setup that the Bronco does. So I'd be curious to see. That could be a pretty good contender for the Bronco moving forward. Bunch of cool Broncos there in general. Helibad had their cool one there. It was like air ride and portals on like 42-inch tires. That was pretty cool to see. And yeah, I don't know. Bunch of cool stuff at SEMA this year. So I had a great time. And if you guys have any questions about what I saw, you know.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Did you see the Bronco with the roof rack that was propped up by magazines?
Yeah,
What
I
was
did.
that?
So that was like some Asian company. So if you've never been to SEMA, there's a lot of Asian companies that end up going there because they're trying to collaborate with brands to, you know, make parts and stuff. So that was like some Asian company that had this roof rack, like just chilling on a soft top, and it was appeared to just be like a hard top roof rack, but they didn't have a hard top Bronco, so they just like laid it on top of the soft top. Yeah, that was one of the biggest fails there for sure.
I noticed. Oh, sorry, I noticed on one video that Alpha Rex had that tail light. I thought it was pretty neat. Of course, who knows what the price point's going to be, but it was based off of the Raptor design. But I think it was supposed to be able to fit the regular Broncos. Corbin, did you happen to see that one?
Yeah, so it is. So exactly, it's just going to be like a Raptor style tail light for, you know, the regular Broncos. It'll fit, you know, the halogen or LED type. It's got like sequential kind of action to it, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, if you're looking for that more Raptor kind of look, I mean, it could be a pretty cool taillight for sure. I tried asking prices on a lot of people, but you know, they're not willing to share a lot of times because they're not out yet. A lot of times they probably don't have them ironed out. But
I know their headlights aren't cheap. That's the reason I'm a little worried about that.
yeah, Alpha Rex is definitely on the premium side for sure as far as price range go.
Because I had said,
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say I had said their headlights on my 4Runner,
Yep.
and they were alpha black, and they weren't like the top tier, but they were like the middle tier. You know, like the Bronco only has that one tier, but it's got like all black or not black. But the 4Runner had 3 tiers, and the middle one I had, which included the bulbs, and it was the alpha black. I think it was like $800. It was nothing like what we're paying as a Bronco owner for headlights.
Yeah, there's definitely a Bronco tax for sure. Because I mean, I don't know if you guys ever look at like Jeep comparison parts to like Bronco comparison parts. I mean, it's kind of not fair sometimes.
I like shopping for my XJ because it's like, okay, I need a new suspension setup. The whole thing's $400, $500, and then I go from a Bronco and it's, you know, $3,000. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, somebody brought in the comments. You were talking about long travel. I'm glad to hear, and I'm sure Evan may agree with me on this too, because over here in our part of the country, we don't have the big open wide trails. All of our trails are small, and you're snaking through trees. here in the Midwest and even in the South too. I just got back from Kentucky, and the trails down there are very similar to what we have up here, Michigan and Wisconsin. So that's the only drawback of having a Raptor in these areas is that you have to worry about smacking trees trying to go through an even modest trail.
Right.
I've been exploring a couple different options with the long travel and talking to a few different companies. And Rock Crawler, Corbin, I don't know, was Rock Crawler out there at SEMA?
I don't think they were. There's a few companies that kind of stopped going to SEMA recently, so a few of those type companies definitely weren't there.
So Rock Crawler is coming out with a legit setup, and it's not going to widen the back axle at all. What it's going to do is it's going to remove the rear track bar, and it's going to have a triangulated 4-link bolt-in kit that's going to go on there. And what the 4-link does is it prevents the axle going side to side without the use of the track bar. So you remove that panhard bar, track bar, whatever you want to call it, and then you're going to gain a little bit extra articulation. I think right now they're claiming a little bit over 13 inches of wheel travel, but they're not very specific on how they measured that. The Raptor in the back is 14 inches, so it's close to that, but you're going to lose that track bar. So what's going to be nice about that is when you have the track bar installed, when your axle goes up and down, that track bar is going to shift ever so slightly left and right on the axle. It's going to pull it. But when you remove that and do the triangulated 4-link, it's not going to have any of that pulling left to right, and it's going to keep it nice and straight up and down. So you're going to lose all that wiggling that you get in the back. For example, when I'm out at Prairie City hitting jumps, I have ever slight, like a little shimmy from the back end, and it's going to remove all of that, plus better articulation. So I'm excited for that. And then Metal Cloak, they haven't said anything, but I was just there today and yesterday, and they're giving really big hints to me about suspension work that they're doing, and they had some teaser photos that they showed me a little bit.
I saw those today too somewhere.
Yeah.
The black and gold or something, I think.
Those are the Jeep ones. But yeah.
Yeah, so they have the new Rock Sport with the reservoirs that they bring out for the Jeeps, and they're like, there may be something coming for the Bronco in the coilover department soon with some rear geometry changes. And I was like, okay.
Well, me and Evan are still waiting on their fender well liners. So
those aren't
I talked to them about
anytime
that.
soon.
I talked to them about that yesterday. Those are currently on the back burner because they're focusing on the suspension.
Rock Power has coilovers coming out too for the Bronco.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you're talking like that 4-link. I'm curious. Is that going to be like a bolt-on kit for like the factory axle?
Yep. They said it's going to bolt into the factory mount points on the frame. They didn't specify much on the back. However, I do know from a photo that they're going to have a truss that's going to probably weld onto the back axle over the differential. That's going to include the triangulation mounts used.
Yeah.
When I talked to, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I was talking to the guy from Rock Crawler when they were getting ready to show those off, and I'm pretty sure that the one that they did for that the 4-link kit was on a Dana 60.
Yeah, because I feel like
it does weld on there.
Yeah. So like 4-link. Usually when I think of 4-link, you're thinking like a lot of work. So I was curious if it bolted on, because I know for a lot of people they don't want to like take their stock axle and cut brackets off of it and start welding stuff. So I didn't know if it was going to be like a full bolt-on, style 4-link, because that would have been kind of cool.
So with the 4-link, you have to do some sort of welding to get the mount changed on the rear axle.
Right. Yeah.
But for those that want to do it, it's going to be an option. And for those that don't want to do it, they also already offer just their standard parallel 4-link system, just like the Bronco comes with standard.
Right.
Yeah, I have their X Factor control arms. I just haven't installed them yet.
Yeah.
Nice. I'd like to see something different too, because like the long travel kits that we're seeing for the front, all they're doing is just widening the front end. They're not really changing anything dramatically. I would like to see something unique. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of like virtual pivots or anything like that. Kind of stuff like what they do in the race world, where they extend so like your kingpin, style front suspension, a lot of times they can eliminate that by having two bars that make your pivot point now outside of your wheel, and it removes a lot of bump steer and such from your steering, which honestly the Bronco could probably benefit from. So like something like that, I would like to see a little bit more functionality, I guess I should say, out of some of these long travel kits. Because I guess that's kind of my issue with them is they're just kind of widening it, and then they're like, oh, you're getting more travel, but really all you're doing is just widening your Bronco, in my opinion.
I want to figure out if I could put a Raptor Dana 50 under the rear of my Bronco to widen it, because I know a Raptor will get through the Rubicon because they've been through it. So I know it's not too wide for that, but I'm trying to kind of figure out if it's feasible at this point.
Yeah.
Well, you can order the Dana 60 in any width. Well, not any width, but you can they'll send it to you in any width that you want, but it's still plug and play versus right now trying to get the Bronco Raptor rear end to talk to your computer is going to be a pain in the butt.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, how feasible is it to get the sensors to talk? And if it's the same wheel speed sensors that the Bronco uses, it won't be an issue, because that's the only electronics you have really back there is the ABS and the wheel speed sensors and maybe something for the brakes. But if those will all talk to the computer with that much programming, it will be doable. And the fact that the Dana 50 is a little bit more clearance than Dana 60, I like that, and it's half the cost. So I'm just curious. I know the hub size, not the hub size, but the studs are a different sizing than the normal Bronco, so wheels fitting would be an issue. And then, with Medhas 78 portals, I sat down with Bronkbuster and got to watch him install a set of portals on Wild Horse's Bronco. They're really cool. They really are. Not for me, though. No. And to be fair, Wild Horses is still dealing with stuff from those portals. Like, that's why you haven't seen that thing wheeled yet, is because it's still in the garage getting figured out. So that's they're having some brake issues, not from the portals, but from bleeding the brakes. Apparently, it's hard to bleed brakes in Broncos.
Yeah, I think if I was going to spend that much money up front on something, I would probably wait until more people have got it, just to make sure there's not like a learning curve or anything. Because that's a lot of, granted, now if you totally like do all the stuff we're talking about, your money wise, it's over time is probably going to be close, but that's a lot of money to just check out at once. And I think I would want to let some other people be the guinea pigs on that for that much money. That's just me, though.
Firm.
Yeah. I think
they do work. They're just very expensive, and you got to work out a lot of kinks with them, change a lot of stuff. It gets extremely expensive. And I would have articulation any day over tons and tons of clearance, because as a rock crawler guy, that's just recent. I just recently started getting into the go fast desert stuff with the Bronco. Before that, Jeep XJ, I still have it. Rock crawling all the time. Rubicon's over here. I love hitting that trail. But with rock crawling, you don't want to it's not who's the highest up, right? It's who has the most articulation, who's nimble, because the higher you are, the more tippy you get. And when you get off camber and stuff like that, you're going to have a lot of issues with stability. And I'd rather scrape on my skid plates, that's what they're there for, than tip on a rock.
Agreed. I'd rather have the lowest ride height possible.
Lower center of gravity with big tires and max articulation. That's what it's all about for the rocks.
So Derek and Monica, I know you guys are being kind of quiet tonight. Probably can't get a word in edgewise on us, but were you all planning on getting portals? I know that in a streaming you all have a Brockbuster. There was something mentioned, but I didn't know if that was something you guys were planning to do.
Yes. Yep. We were supposed to be getting a set. In fact, it's actually the set that's on Jim Creel's Bronco. And, hindsight's kind of, it's good. The set ended up falling through. But now after seeing the portals in person, I don't know. The stance is way wider than I had anticipated. And the lift is cool. And, in my opinion, I would take ground clearance for a Bronco over articulation, because you're dealing with independent front suspension. you're not going to gain much articulation out of that front suspension. As soon as it's drooped, it's drooped. So if you have that ground clearance via a portal to pick it up more, I think that's a big benefit. But looking at a Jeep with a solid front axle, you can get a ton of articulation out of that. But yeah, our set of portals fell through, which is good. We've got other things in the works now, instead of doing that. But yeah, we were supposed to be lined up to have a set, but it fell through.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think if I was going to buy portals, if I was that rich, I would probably get a good suspension too.
yeah.
Yeah.
At least like an extended travel or something,
Yeah. It's the other hard part was, when Tyler was talking about getting the portals and putting them on his, bone stock, non-Sasquatch Bronco, it sure evolved really quick. And so we didn't get to really see the non-Sasquatch coilovers being used with, the M190 and all that before it got changed really fast and was on, 40s essentially.
Yeah.
So I think that the portals have their place. It's just, they need a little more time on the Tibus side of stuff. I've been looking into 74 weld stuff quite a bit, and I think they're definitely on a little bit better track, especially with offering the upright instead of just a bolt-on configuration. I feel like that billet upright's going to be far stronger in the end.
Yeah.
Essentially,
I
the
can
Tibus
100% agree.
bolting on. Yeah, it's just bolting on in the place of a wheel speed or the wheel bearing.
Right.
And so at what point is that leverage gonna, wear on those threads and pop at that point? So, but
Yeah, that's been my issue with those ones also, is like, to me, it's you're widening it, you're widening it out from the hub, and you're gonna put 40-inch tires on it, like you said, and you're keeping that stock spindle. I mean,
Yeah.
I would be curious to see, like, at what point does that fail?
Yes.
And then we're right back to now you're really wide again, because
Right.
essentially you're putting the entire portal outside of your hub. So like I was looking at the Helibad Bronco at SEMA, cool looking Bronco, super sweet, but I mean that thing is extremely wide. I mean that's like a semi truck.
Yeah.
So it's
Which
cool.
looks cool pounding pavement, but
Yeah.
but it didn't get me excited when I seen it in person. They're cool, but
They're cool, but yeah.
we kind of missed out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would still love to see portals on a completely stock Bronco.
Yeah.
Because that's the benefit, right? You spend $25,000 on portals, you don't have to change anything else because the geometry stays the same.
Right.
But-
Gear, it's re-geared, everything.
Yeah.
It's like I say, I wish that in the case of how it all panned out, I wish it would have actually went on a stock Bronco and just started testing and going from there. But
Yeah.
Tyler's an awesome dude. He gets excited really quick. So
Yeah. Awesome.
Did you want to talk about the bracket stuff?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good thing to talk about.
Yeah. So for those that know, I just got off the Rubicon Trail because Matt has 78. I crawled my Bronco a little bit, but not that it's made for it, but we do crawl it. And then weekends and waypoints. You recently came off the Rubicon Trail. Have you checked your rear bracketry at all on the Bronco?
I did, because right before we did the trail, or a couple weeks prior to that, I saw Mitchell's Wild Horses Bronco. He had cracked brackets back there, and so that's always been a concern of mine. From what I've heard, it's with the earlier released Broncos, but no, I haven't had any cracks on mine. Surprisingly, how much I've beaten it, and jumped it, and such. The bottom brackets have definitely the frame. I guess the lower control arm frame side brackets have taken quite a bit of beating, but I believe it's the frame upper control arm brackets, rear upper control arm brackets that are cracking, from my understanding, right?
Yeah. So a common issue on the 21 to 22 Broncos that are wheeled, because it wasn't straight up, it wasn't developed with like rock crawling necessarily in mind, although Ford did take the Bronco on the Rubicon as kind of like a middle finger to Jeep initially when they started making them. But it was, designed around Johnson Valley for going fast and high-speed desert stuff. Like that's where it excels. But it can rock crawl. Just you got to be patient with the IFS, a little bit slower. But what people found is on the 21 and 22 models, the upper control arm. So the rear axle has a lower control arm, the one that you see, and then they have an upper one. The upper one connects to the frame up high, kind of out of sight by the gas tank. And there's brackets that hold it in place. They're pretty tucked up in there. Those brackets began to crack and split at the welds when you wheel them too hard from the flexing and the bigger tires. It starts to pull on those and they start to bend and crack. Mitch cracked his. They don't post about it, but if you talk to them, AC Fab, the guys down at SoCal that are wheeling their Broncos hard, a lot of those guys have cracked theirs. They just haven't posted it publicly, but if you ask them, they'll tell you they have. And then also, what is it? Mine cracked. So I checked before I got on the Rubicon. They were fine. Came off it, checked them, and I have a nice hairline crack going up one of the brackets. So I'm going to have to work on welding that on and tacking on some gussets. Now, Ford does know about this, and the 23 models have gussets there now that are welded on. So hopefully they will not be seeing that same issue. But, I mean, you learn from putting it through the abuse where the weak points are, and that's apparently one of them. And then Adventures of Rogers and Henderson, you said you had some bending.
Yeah, when we went to Windrock in April, we were doing Trail 16, and there's a big boulder you come down over the top of, and I whacked it pretty hard. And so on the trailer on the way back, we stopped at a gas station to fill up the truck, and I was just standing there, and you could see if you're looking at it this way, they're flailed out at the bottom like that. So, I mean, it hasn't let go or anything yet, but they definitely need to be replaced.
And that's on the bottom trailing arm mount.
Yeah, the lower arm where it mounts frame side.
Yep. So my issue with I understand why Ford has their brackets the way they do on their rear axle. There is a reason behind it. One of them is axle wrap. They're trying to prevent axle wrap, and the geometry of their suspension is set up for bombing through whoops more so than it is rock crawling. So while you can rock crawl, you are going to have some of those issues where you're going to be smacking on some things. And the brackets come off the axle like this. There's one welded to the frame, there's another one welded to the frame, and then there's the control arm in the middle with the bolt going through it. And because of that setup, it's going to be a little bit more susceptible to bending. Now, what you can do is you can install a cover or a skid, so to speak, that bolts up in there, and it creates like a box, and it helps box that in and prevent it from bending as much. Obviously, if you give it a really good smack, the whole thing will just go like that. But it'll prevent the splaying out, like you said yours is doing. And Barnes 4-wheel drive, on their website, they sell a whole selection of brackets that they're making for the Bronco. They are weld-on, so you had to do some fabrication. But they're going to replace the Ford factory bracketry on the rear axle with their stuff. And they're coming from the Jeep world. They have a lot of experience to make good products. And it's a really nice setup that if I ever break mine, I'm going to use their stuff because they know what they're doing with bracketry. That's what they specialize in.
Yeah, ours are all bent out of shape too.
They're trash. They're not cracked. The
No.
upper control arms are fine.
Yeah.
What's this Midhas? You're talking about a weld-on stiffener. I'm curious. I haven't heard of that. What part are you talking about? Stiffening on what part? I'm curious what that is because anything I haven't heard about yet, I'd love to hear about. New products.
You might just be talking about a gusset.
Maybe. I mean, I've welded on some gussets on my Bronco with my friend. He's welded on some stuff. Lower control arm bracket. Welded on one. Do you know who makes that?
What is that?
I haven't seen a weld-on lower control arm bracket yet. Curious how that would work with removing the lower control arm.
I mean, if you like a gusset, but with a skid built into it, it just, I mean, you'd still have the flexibility coming out of the end going towards the axle, but towards the front of the vehicle going to where the bolt is, you'd have protection, but you're also adding structure to the outside of it.
I like that.
I would want that welded on. I don't. Hopefully, not rip it off anyway.
Anything can be rewelded. Kind of. Sort of. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Barnes comes out with. They have some skid plates now too that are really cheap. They're $1,000 for a full belly pan skid system. Yeah, if you like that full belly protection, they offer it $1,000. I've never seen it. I can't vouch for it, but I do know the company's pretty solid.
Do you know if they offer it for the 2-door?
As far as I know, it's just the 4-door right now. 4-door always comes first. I'm sorry.
So rude.
I know.
I put a link to their
2-doors, man. They never get the good stuff, unfortunately.
Yeah, I put a link to their website in the comments if anybody wants to check them out.
Barnes. Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, they don't have 4-door. Sorry, Evan.
Doctor.
At least for now.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah,
If
awesome.
enough people buy their 4-door, they'll make a 2-door version. So let's go buy the 4-door maybe.
Yeah. So I know we talked about other welding too. I know Derek and Monica, I know you guys did a video on the axle tubes themselves. That seemed like it was a pretty quick and easy solution. And some of the local shops I've talked to, they said they actually do that for Jeeps a lot too. I'm assuming because it's the rear end, but that's kind of interesting.
The way I personally feel about it is I think it should be a recall issue. Obviously, Ford didn't really test these things, or maybe it was a quality control thing at the time that got looked over or missed. But is welding it the fix? I don't know. But I've seen, 4 or 5 people break when we were out in Sand Hollow, that exact place. And what did we do? We got the axle twisted back and welded it, So we did preventative.
You talking about the spot welds?
Yeah, on the axle tube.
Yeah. I was talking with Mattson from Metal Cloak today, actually, and we were talking about the same thing. And so Dana makes the axles that go on the Ford Bronco, and they also make the same axle. It's a very similar axle, the N220, that goes in the Jeep as well. Just differences in bracketry and size. And they have been having the same issue. Mattson says even since like 2010, Dana's quality control on the axles they've been sending out for the spot welds has been really iffy. In Jeeps for the longest time, and still to this day, the same thing. The spot welds are twisting or breaking off the axle housings.
Like Walter, his whole plug weld just popped right out. I mean, you could tell there was barely any actual penetration into the axle tube. And so, again, I personally think it's more of a recall type thing. But there again, welding it, I mean, I've had good luck with it. I'm going to keep beating on it and see what happens. But I think it's cheap insurance, a little bit of peace of mind.
Yep.
Doesn't really change much.
Yeah, it's got me
convinced.
I was gonna say, I just want to say I'm not using my trail turn assist anymore after seeing that. I don't want to take chances of that, especially with larger tires.
Yeah.
How are the welds still looking? I think you've had it for a few months now. Because to me, like coming from working in fabrication, you're welding, a cast,
right?
Pumpkin or diff, whatever you want to call it, to a tube. Theoretically, I guess you'd want to heat up, that cast, because 2 kind of dissimilar metals you're welding there. Right. So I'm curious how yours is still looking.
So far, so good. I mean, it's still there. Like I said, it hasn't changed. I don't have any leaks coming, indicating any actual cracks or breaks. But no, you're absolutely right. And that's why I say, is it the fix? Because cast to an actual tube, it's, you have to heat it up and do it the right way. We just zip some weld in it and called it good.
And I guess that's for anyone that's watching. That's probably everyone that's watching is probably thinking, "Oh, why isn't Dana just doing that?" Well, that's probably why.
Yeah, that's the reason.
They drill these holes into the diff, and then they're just spot welding them into the tube. But there's there's definitely some penetration issues there.
Well, I think the right way to do it is to actually develop a truss and truss the whole entire rear end to prevent that leverage, because that's what it's doing is the coilover's coming down on such an extreme angle that it's just forcing until something gives, and that's where it gives. So,
Yeah,
but
you're absolutely right.
truss it, that would solve it.
So I talked to a guy that runs a fab shop not far from here earlier this week, and we're going to meet up with him and see if we can come up with a truss for the back. But from what he looked at from the pictures that I did send him, because of the way that the Broncos bracketry is on there, and so mine's a 2021. I don't have the rear sway bar, but hers is a 2022. She does have the rear sway bar. The way that all ties in, the best bet is going to be it's going to weld in on certain spots, but it's also going to bolt onto the upper control arm brackets just for some added stability.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room to work with on that.
No.
Yeah.
They took every inch they could for brackets.
Yeah. Then I'd be curious how it's going to interfere with, the exhaust, because I know the exhaust tube gets pretty close.
Just cut it
some
off.
of that other stuff.
Muffler delete.
I mean, you say that, but a lot of people have like aftermarket exhaust and stuff, and it's like now you're changing a bunch to try to figure that out.
Right.
And that's probably why we haven't seen, a true truss, kit come out yet.
Right. Does anybody know if any of the tubes have twisted on a Bronco that still had the factory tires on it?
That one yellow one,
Was it?
the cyber orange. Completely
Yeah,
stopped.
22 wild track. Didn't he twist his?
Yeah.
He did.
He's not stock, but he's on 35 still.
Yeah.
35 KO2s. Yeah.
So he's on real 35s.
Yeah.
There was a stock Sasquatch Bronco at, I think it was at United. That was going. It was a decent obstacle, right? But it did the same thing.
It's a lot of leverage,
Is it happening when lockers are on? Like, has it happened to anyone without locking the rear? Like, I don't know if that's causing it potentially.
It's the twisting motion.
You're putting torsion across, both sides.
Yeah,
So
it's I don't really know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know when these breaks have happened. Whenever I see them, I try and ask just to add to my education. But I haven't seen enough of it to really know. I'd imagine it's trail turn assist. I know that's guaranteed one cause where it's happened. And then the rear locker, I'm not sure of. I don't think it's ever happened just making a turn. I personally still use my trail turn assist. I'm just very sparing with it, and I don't use it on, like, here's the other thing, like some of the cases where it's broken, what kind of surface was it on? Where you want a dry, like, surface that gives you a lot of traction, or is it on a loose surface? But I mean, at the end, it still comes down to the spot welds are iffy on if they've penetrated enough.
Yeah, the two we seen, it was on rocks and Sand Hollow.
Yeah.
So,
which is a spot you're not necessarily technically supposed to use it. At least that's what Ford says. But
they weren't using trail turn assist on
okay,
it.
so,
Just going up.
Yeah, it was
were
just
they locked?
Yeah.
Was it an issue of him not having traction and then suddenly having traction, and that's when it twisted?
It was just the angle. I think that one was an angle game.
I've only seen it. Well, I don't remember what side Walters was, but the ones I've seen were the passenger side, and I think that's what Walters was.
I don't remember.
But it seems like it's more common on the passenger side. But in this case, he was going up. Was it called no left turn or something like that? It was a really tight obstacle. I mean, if you got off,
was he making a left turn?
No, it was right.
Don't make a left turn there.
But it was just because of the articulation as he was climbing. Literally, you're using the sidewall of the tire to crawl up a rock face, and it just eventually popped.
Yeah.
So in the video, you can hear it.
Yeah, it's really sad, actually.
But,
yeah, it'd be nice if Ford would warranty it. I know mine would not be included in that warranty if it happened to me, but it would be nice if they did for the people who are still stock.
Well, there was a guy on the Bronco 6G forums. He had a King coilover set on his. He twisted his, and Ford did replace the axle under warranty.
Yeah, it depends on the dealership.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's going to depend on the dealer. Like some dealers are a little bit more lenient, there's not really, I don't know if I'd use the word lenient, but they're a little bit more understanding as far as there's some dealers just throw their hands up. It's like, oh, you got an aftermarket. We're not touching it. But there's some dealers that are.
Well, let's just say my dealership doesn't know how to take off my spare tire to do a rotation. They could not. They gave up, and they said in their documentation they cannot remove the spare tire. And they got really confused about my skid plate, which is an aftermarket skid plate, but it's bolted in place of the Ford factory one. And they called it what are the plastic ones called? I don't know. They called it whatever the plastic thing is, and they're like, we can't get it off. I'm like, okay.
That's hilarious.
Awesome.
So they're not really off-road focused.
No,
Yeah.
that's not.
Splash
Yeah,
guard. They
that's
called
it.
it a splash guard.
Oh yeah.
I said, no, it's a 1/4-inch steel rock guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I hope you can find a better dealer to take it to if you want to do that, because that person obviously doesn't know their ass from a hole in the ground. So
Not for large rocks.
yeah. Yeah.
Before
Awesome.
my Bronco goes into the dealer, there's a lot of stuff that comes off it, and then
It's a process.
You keep all your old stuff in the garage and the sides.
yeah,
just in case.
exactly. They couldn't figure out for the life of them to get them Talon skid plates off, so I just take them off every time.
Yeah.
So.
I have an issue with mine. I've switched dealers since then, but every time I take it in, it always ends up missing a bolt out of the transmission skid. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, guys, come on. I mean, how hard is it to?
There was one day that the front skid was just loose,
Yeah,
just rattling on the
Like,
way
that's
home.
nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is what it is, I guess. So, anybody have anything? Of course, even if we stick with 2 weeks, I'm not sure our schedule will allow us to do Black Friday, which is 2 weeks from today, I believe. Anybody have any Black Friday items they're looking at or eyeing, or any particular thing they're looking to get this holiday season?
I'm focused on the paddy wagon right now. My Bronco's done for now. It can do the Rubicon without damage, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Awesome. How about you, Courtney and Evan? I know there's stuff you want to buy, but anything that's imminent.
I'm still trying to convince her that she needs different wheels.
But
Battle
he's
board.
not willing to pay for them.
I don't
Well,
know.
he can't pay for your mods and his mods too.
Who made that rule?
That hasn't worked out for me so far, Jody.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I was kind of hoping maybe Funhaver would run something on those fenders for Black Friday, but I haven't seen anything yet.
I thought Funhaver was going to do this whole lineup, and they finally released after years, and it was just kind of
It's the
normal
same stuff it was from RTR, just with a different name on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But to me, they have the best looking wide fenders that you can get.
yeah. I do like their fenders. Yeah.
I
So,
did
but
see a post about those cracking and being very hard to install.
well, I mean, I'd end up cracking them anyway.
Yeah.
But like I had them in the
That's why-
car
hey,
when you priced it out.
KBD, $300, throw them on, call it a day.
Yeah. The
then
shipping
your tire
part
hits
was
first.
worse.
Yeah.
It was $1,000 to have the set of fenders and liners shipped.
Wow.
Wow.
It was $3,000 for the fenders and the liners to match, and then another $1,000 for the shipping. I'm like, come on.
And then you pay for it? Sorry, paint it?
Then you get. Well, I was just gonna have the Bronco wrapped, but
Okay.
I got so many scratches and marks on it. It'd just be easier just to wrap the whole thing.
I saw Count Customs paint job from Weekends at Waypoints video. You should check it out if you haven't gone to his YouTube channel. But there's your plug there, Corbin.
Yeah,
But
thanks.
that paint job was so incredible. I asked Walter how much it cost. You guys want to guess how much that paint job cost?
Nope. I don't want to do a disservice because I'd probably come in under not knowing what paint jobs cost.
$35,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Right. I believe it. It looked pretty good in person. I'm not gonna lie.
It is
It's
incredible. I
A little
want it for my
flashy for
Bronco.
me because I would absolutely destroy it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it looked good though. It's cool. It's a cool look. Kind of reminds me of like a lowrider kind of look to it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. How about you, Corbin? Anything on your Christmas wish list that you're looking for Black Friday?
I want new seats because I hate these factory seats.
Yes.
But I should
Got it.
probably get new skids because my skids are all like concaved at the moment. And they're not looking good. I can barely get them on because like they flex so much now. Like I'm like beating them with a hammer to try to like get the bolts to go in. So
Barnes 4-wheel drive. Buy enough
yeah.
of them so that he can get his 2-door made.
So that's probably what I should get. But the irresponsible version of me might buy seats. I don't know.
So do you have the marine grade vinyl, Corbin, or is yours the cloth?
Nah, these are just like the basic cloth seats.
Okay.
And they're like covered in sand and dirt at this point. They're all stained, like not looking great. So
Have you looked into seats much?
yeah, I've looked at a bunch of them. I mean, to me, I really like the PRP ones just because they're
Yeah.
like an actual functional off-road seat. They're suspension.
Yeah.
So you're actually going to gain some comfort out of them off-road. So to me, that's probably the route that I would go.
Yeah.
Do they have heated seat options?
They do have heated inserts
Okay.
and
Good.
lumbar support inserts that you can also get.
That's important.
Very
Yeah,
important.
yeah, that's important. Gotta have that good posture.
You're right.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have a bunch of cool options. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of seat companies out there with a lot of different options. So we'll see.
Yeah. How about you, Caleb? Anything on your hot wish list? I know you said you're not buying anything for the Bronco, but
Raptor. I love the Raptor. Yeah, I love it. I want the Carly suspension steering system really bad. That is an incredible system. I have some bump steer in my Bronco right now, and it's light. I've mitigated about as best as I could. But if I can get that, I'm confident it would remove all the toe-in issues the Bronco has when it's jumping and flexing out. And it would pretty much make it drive heckin' nice. That coupled with the rock crawler 4-link in the back or whatever metal clips come out with. And I think I'd have a really nice straight driving Bronco that just goes to the whoops effortlessly and keeps its line.
nice. How about you, Derek, Monica? Y'all have any? Of course, this could be for any of your vehicles, not necessarily your 6th gen, but your other Broncos.
We got all sorts of projects
Bronco
going.
wish lists going on everywhere right now.
I still want portals, so
Yeah.
it'd be cool.
If Santa could bring us anything,
Yeah.
go for that.
Yeah.
After that, I mean, I'd honestly leave the new Bronco alone for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but I say that
I
for
know.
now.
Right.
Yeah, I say that too a lot, because I've done a lot to mine, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm done for a while, and then next thing you know, you're on a forum or Instagram, and you see something like, shit, and you're like, okay, who has that also has a firm, or what are the other ones, Claire or Clarn, whatever it's called, that's where I get myself in trouble sometimes. I have to be careful about that. So, well, for me, I'll answer my own question. I did order a set of the Revolution geared axle 5:13:1 ratio. For mine, that should put the 38s right where they would be back where the stock was, as far as the RPMs and the transmission and stuff like that. So they were on sale from a couple. To be honest with you, I don't know if I know a lot of y'all probably seen us in the forums, but you are able to re-gear a front differential as long as it's the M210. So the big consensus for the longest time was that you couldn't do that, and that was because Dana had a video saying you couldn't do it. But my
Like the ones that
understanding,
made it.
yeah, imagine. Well, they're watching about the FDU, but I think the issue is that on the Ford ring and pinion for the front, there's a bevel. It has to have a bevel to clear something. Whereas if you try to use the Jeep ring and pinion, it won't fit because of that reason. I think the M190s, you can't do it at all because every one of them between Revolution, Yukon, and Nitro, they all say it has to be a front locker. I know there's a couple of guys in the forums, and there's a guy on YouTube who's already done the Yukon swap, and there's a guy on the forums that's done the Nitro swap. I talked to one of my local shop members, or one of the local shop that I use, and he said, because I saw the Revolution, they were like half the price. They were like $724 for the entire kit, and because that raised a red flag with me. I'm like, okay, well, what's the quality like? And this guy's been around. He's done a ton of SEMA builds with Ford and several other places, but he used to build Yukon. But he told me that that Yukon does use Revolution for some of the supply of some of their stuff. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm assuming it's true. But if that's indeed the case, if the quality's there, I talked to some of my Toyota friends that use Yukon, or not Yukon, but Revolution, and they seem to like the quality. They said the quality is good compared to the other brands they've used. So I won't take my chance on that. That's my Black Friday purchase I've already made. But the other thing I'm thinking about is that new Cervini Ram Air hood that you buy it. If you buy it unpainted, it's only like $800 and something. But if you can buy it with the paint code match for like $1,500,
which is very impressive, to be honest. Like, if you're into that kind of stuff, it's nice.
And it's under the price of the ADV one. Now, granted, it's a little different because the cowl sits a little higher. But based on the pictures, I think I would like it. And I know Cervini's has been around for decades because I remember back in my old Fox Body Mustang days, they were a real big player back then. So,
is it needed? No, but is it wanted? Yes.
Is there anybody here that can say they've only bought stuff that they've absolutely needed? Oh, Evan, put your hand down. You don't need 37s.
That is false.
I'd actually like to go back to the rear gear thing. So you can actually re-gear a M190.
Okay.
So Dusty, who runs SoCal Broncos, he has a base non-Sasquatch Bronco that he's built up. And I believe it was like a week or two, he actually just released a video where he re-geared his front end and rear end and added a locker to his rear end. And he did a video explaining how he did the entire thing and what he used. So if anyone watching, if that's in your boat, definitely go check. I forget the name. He has a YouTube channel. I forget the name of it, but if you go look up SoCal Broncos and find Dusty, the guy that runs it, he has the information on how to do it. So it is possible. I don't know how the extent of it, but
well, that's good to hear because I know that'd be helpful for a lot of people, especially the people that upsize tires. Yeah, there's so much misinformation about that. It's just surprising. I'm not sure why. The Dana video, and I've met that guy. That's Dana. He's a very nice guy. I met him at the sand dunes, and I mean, technically, I guess he was right with what was available at the time, or commercially available. But the manufacturers, because they've had that beveled edge, supposedly it works now because people are using them and they're not having issues with it. So, that was something I think a lot of people were just like, well, darn, I really don't want to have to drop, $5-6 grand for an ultimate FDU just so I can re-gear. But Ford Performance sells the M210s with the option of a 513 and 538 in them as well. You can't buy the ring and pinion separately, but you can buy them inside of a brand new differential, which is interesting. So I'm not sure why they would do that and not offer just to buy it by itself.
Bareback Broncos, are you talking about Cervini or ADV, or who are you talking about?
Who will respond?
Yeah.
While we're waiting, Corbin, any plans to add lockers to yours?
Yeah, it's in the work. I'm kind of going through the debate of re-gearing at the moment. So non-Sasquatch Bronco, 373 gears. It's working. It's not ideal. So the thing is I can add a rear locker, and I've already got the stuff to do it. But then I'm kind of locking myself into the 373 gears. And if I want to, get full potential, I'm going to want to re-gear. Now we're talking about the front end too. So I'm kind of in the, debate zone of, do I wait off and just do, the whole shebang, or do I just, ride it out, and just do the rear and stick with the 373 gears. So it's kind of coming down to cost versus functionality for me at this point. So we'll see.
I got it. I will buy the Raptor axle, put it in my Bronco. I'll buy the Spicer performance thing up front, and then I will sell you my axles for super cheap, like pennies on the dollar.
Hey, that will help me out, honestly.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't back out of it now.
I won't back out of it.
Yeah. And I think that ends up being a lot of issues for people that didn't get a Sasquatch Bronco. Is it really becomes a debate of what's the right direction to go to get the functionality that you need without spending an insane amount of money.
Right. I'm going to be honest with you. It's been kind of like festering with me since the last episode when you told us that you didn't have lockers, and I had just got done watching your Rubicon video. It's just been eating at my brain that you did it without lockers.
Same.
So I've been waiting to ask that question.
Yeah.
Send it.
I mean, yeah, it was a challenge. And I mean, honestly, don't get me wrong, lockers, they get you to where you need to go, and they're definitely the best tool for off-roading. But I mean, you can go a lot of places without them. With the right line, right spotters, you can do it safely, and you can make it a lot of places. I mean, Jeep Willys, they're out there wheeling those things all over the world, or like all over the place, and they're definitely not as capable as the vehicles that we're driving today. So,
the nice thing about the Rubicon too is like you have so many options on the trail, right? You got crazy stuff, medium stuff, hard stuff, even stuff that you can't bypass. There's different lines you can take. So yeah, it's a push to get it through without lockers. So props to you, man, because I did it and I used both my lockers for almost everything, just for fun, like just get me through it. But I can't imagine doing it without lockers.
Yeah, it's scary because it takes a lot of bumping. So then, giving it way more gas than you need to get over, stuff that doesn't seem crazy. So it was scary for sure. I was very nervous I was going to break something doing that. But
props to you, man.
Well, I do have to head out soon. I got to go get my next project. Hint. But
yeah, it sounds like a plan. I mean, so I think we're all about ready to tie it up. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up real quick before we say goodbye?
We do have a question in the comments from ODX Darkside, which is Mike.
Okay.
Ford performance upgrades for Christmas. Suggestions?
What kind of Ford performance?
Is he talking about the 210? Because that's what we were talking about with the front ends. They do have a front end they sell you with the gears already in it. You just have to re-gear the back. I mean, if you're planning on going bigger tires and you want to upgrade from a 190, I would say go for it. Just get the gears that you want. That's just my personal opinion. Because if you're running anything higher than 35s, I mean, realistically, it depends on what your stock gearing is. I know because Corbin, you said yours was the 373, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Depending on what transmission you have too, I guess. I guess the manual transmission is probably geared differently, so I'm not sure. But yeah, if you're wanting lockers and you don't want to spend the money it takes to buy a new FDU, I'd do that.
Talk about the Ford Performance Tune. I'm glad you asked because I have the 2.3 Ford Performance Tune. Yes, did it 100%. You're going to have better power, you're going to have better torque, and you're going to have the ability to change a lot of things in the settings and whatnot that you can't currently do. And you can calibrate for your tire sizes. You can do all that from the tune, which is pretty cool. And you don't have to have that little module up there. You can unplug it once you're done. If you do it to the right person, it's covered via warranty. I do have a video on the topic if you want to check out my YouTube channel. But the nice thing about the Ford Performance Tune, I did the dyno before and after. It doesn't give you a ton more power. Actually, it was nowhere close to what they advertised. But what it does give you is a way better power curve. So like right now, I don't have any of that throttle lag. When I was in the rocks, I was having tons of throttle lag. I'd be giving it gas, and then all of a sudden it surged over the obstacle because the boost kicked in, it'd go over. And I have almost none of that now because the power curve is way down. The torque starts way sooner, and it's pretty freaking nice for the rocks.
Yeah, I got the one for the 2.7, and kind of like what Caleb said, I had another off-market brand that I did a video on, and it had a lot better power, but it got to where it kept sitting in limp mode, and we sent it back like 3 or 4 times, and just turned out to be a mess. And the Ford Performance Tuner, I mean, let's face it, we're not drag racing these things, or at least I'm not, but the Ford Performance Tuner, it gives you the ability to change your gear ratio. It gives you that functionality to change your tire size. And like Caleb said, it's warranted. So, I think those 3 things, it's a little hefty price tag, but I think I would recommend it to anybody.
Lethal Performance offers deals on it occasionally. Check them out. That's where I got mine, a couple $100 off. And like he said, you're not going to be drag racing your Bronco. Don't do it for more power because you're not going to really feel any more power. It's the power band that you want, and the transmission mapping as well. That's going to make a difference.
I did see Lethal had that listed on their Black Friday sale. So I'm sure others will as well.
I should have bought one at Bronco Palooza when I had the chance. We just didn't have time. I don't remember what the deal was, but it was like $150 off, and then they were doing the install there.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. And I know that somebody asked about the pedal commander. I haven't used it in the Bronco. I had it in the 4Runner, but with the GOAT modes, I think, doesn't it kind of take care of some of that with throttle response?
Sport mode.
Yeah, sport mode. Sport mode makes a huge difference in the throttle response. I've heard good things about pedal commander on Broncos. I have no experience, so I'm not going to tell people get it or don't get it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it would be necessarily a bad buy, but I think there's a lot of things I'd prioritize over that.
Yeah.
I had the 4Runner, and the 4Runner didn't have those options, so it worked good on it. I liked it in it, but with the Bronco having sport mode, I don't think it's necessarily.
Put your Bronco in sport mode, and then switch it back to 2-wheel drive, and send it responsibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time you drive it.
All right, I do have to go. My
Awesome.
guy was waiting to pick me up outside right now, so
Awesome.
I
Thanks,
told him to
Caleb.
tune in.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Take care, guys.
All right. Awesome.
We have one more question about 35s versus 37s.
Do it.
35s.
I will say I used to tell people 35s for the longest time, and I still think that's the right move for a lot of people. You run into a lot less issues with 35s over 37s. There's a lot you can get full up travel for the most part on almost any suspension setup without serious rubbing. As soon as you go 37s, you're going to run into serious rubbing issues. So to give you an example, I haven't changed my suspension at all from the time I went from 35s to 37s. I used to be able to jump my Bronco whenever I wanted to, and it would take it. Like it would kind of rub a little bit on the inner fender, but it was good. Now, if I was to do it, I'd probably total my front end. I know you can ask Chris Fields. He's on 37s. He's completely crinkled his front end now, and that honestly has to do because of the 37s. So the gain that you're getting with 37s over 35s, you're gaining something, but is it truly worth it? And I know I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I have 37s now, but I still think 35s is probably a true good 35 is probably a more functional, useful size, honestly. From my experience.
Okay, I was gonna say I think it's mainly what you're going to use it for. I think everybody here, Derek, Monica, do y'all have 37s on yours?
We have a true 35, and we've been able to keep up with 40s just fine. So I'm on to 35s.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. A lot of us, I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but there is an aesthetic value there, so to speak. Is that that the look it does look better with bigger tires. I think this is my personal opinion. But some of our friends that Evan and I have, they aren't as hardcore off-roaders, and they were asking because they already have a Sasquatch, and I said if it was me, I would just go with a true 35 because those stock tires aren't really true 35s, and I said that's going to make a world of difference. Now, do I regret going higher? No, I like the 38s with the 1.5 inch body lift and the 3-inch coilovers from Radflow. I had it max flex several times, and only rubbing I've ever had was that little tiny plastic piece in the rear of the wheel well. just barely touched it, but not enough to hurt it. I did have it at the sand dunes on 37s in Silver Lake. I didn't have any issues with that. So I think if you have if you're going to go 37s or larger, I think my advice would be to invest in the right suspension to go with that, so you're not damaging your rig. That's just my 2 cents.
I'm on I'm my problem. Everybody immediately got rid of their Sasquatch tires. Wheels and tires were like the first thing to go.
They put 30.
Man, people missed out. Like the factory wheel to be actually beadlock capable, it's a fairly cheap investment considering. And then to utilize the factory tire is actually a pretty damn good tire.
We did some stuff on those.
I put 30,000 miles on them. I off-roaded the crap out of them. I wasn't nice to them, and they did everything I needed to. Eventually, looking at them, they just weren't safe anymore. I had sidewall cuts and all sorts of stuff in them that, I shouldn't be driving down the highway at 80 with the kids in the back. So that's one of the big reasons we upgraded. But man, True 35, I think that you are getting that little bit of, look out of it. But there again, it's one of those that I've seen so many people break on 37s, and I'm like, man,
we haven't broken.
I
don't want to say it too loud, but
maybe my foot isn't as big.
We haven't had a lot of issues with our Bronco, and I feel like that's why.
Yeah.
Part of it. Yeah, right.
But I don't know. I was one of those that when we got our Bronco, I was like, wow, I'm going to use it for what it is, and I was impressed by it. So,
Yeah.
Well, the terrain definitely plays a difference. We have that one spot that we go to. Jody's been there. So there's been a couple guys that tried the rock wall with the factory tires, and you just can't even get started. You'll get going up it just enough to start spinning, and then you slide back down. But Jody and I both were able to make it up and over it's a pretty, I don't know if you see it. We have a video of a Jeep that flipped over backwards. So that rock wall there, the factory tires will just sit there and spin on it. It's kind of like slick rock, but there's like silt on it also. But with different tires, you can grip and go right up the top of it. So
I think that's terrain too.
That's the terrain. The terrain here is not friendly for anything. We don't have anywhere to jump except for the Silver Lake sand dunes, and like everything is slow when you're bashing off trees here.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time in Sand Hollow, and we do.
The other thing with the factory tires, don't be scared to air them down. The more you air them down, you really get to use that sidewall. There again, you got to be cautious so you don't roll the bead. But I mean, again, I was impressed with them, and I still got them just in case.
They're still here.
So,
yeah, the biggest complaint I've heard about them is them throwing rocks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest complaint. I've not really heard people complain about the off-road. I mean, other than the fact that they're not really a true 35, they're a little on the small side, but that may go back more to aesthetics. I mean, on my 4Runner, I only had 34-inch tires on it, and I did Moab and did Uray and all those trails out there with no problems whatsoever. So, if you're good spotters, right driver, I think 30. I don't think 37s are necessary, but like Evan said, there's some spots that. We've seen many people try them with those stock tires, and none of them can make it 2 doors, 4 doors. And Evan and I, we were able to get up it, not without effort, but we were able to get up it. So, there's some things that do that.
There again, upgrading to a better aftermarket tire is obviously going to be way better anyway. But, I'm going to push my generals just as hard as I did the factory ones. And so far, I mean, I don't have anything to complain about, major stuff. They're holding up just fine. We're going to keep handing it to them. So,
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I think with any bigger, larger size, I think tie rod upgrades, whether it's a bushing or not a bushing, but an aftermarket, or the braces, steering upgrades. I think you're playing with fire if you don't make those adjustments to your steering and such. Without that, I don't necessarily think you have to get RCV axles like I did, but you definitely probably want to get, at minimum tie rod braces or tie rods from like Icon or FabTech or somebody, and maybe one of the bushings. I know Corbin, you have the Rough Country ones. I think Derek and I both have the Brockbuster, but something along those lines, just to help out, because when you go with bigger tires, I think it is going to have if you're willing, you're going to take a lot bigger risk without having that reinforced.
Don't push it. If you feel like if you feel a lot of tension, you're too far. Too much.
When the
All
wheel
right.
comes out of your hand at 100 miles an hour, that's
Yeah.
So somebody asked Derek a question. It says, what size screws did you use to replace the rock blocks, thumb screws, mine keep rubbing, and those darn things?
Yeah, I believe they were just the 1/4-inch thread, but I'll double check.
We'll look and we'll text you.
Yeah.
Sanjay, that was not a challenge.
Challenge accepted.
All right. So anybody have anything else? Y'all ready to call it a night?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it, and please spread the word. We'll send out a date for our next stream as soon as we have that determined. With the holidays coming up, we may have to fluctuate a little bit from our normal schedule. So anyway, thanks everybody. Peace out.
Have a good night.
See you next time.